I think we're all set.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Thursday, November 20th, 12 noon. We're just starting the Protocols, Medications, and Devices Standing Committee. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Shelley, can you go ahead and start the roll call, please?
Amber Rice.
Present.
Aaron O'Connor. Brian Smith.
Present.
This is going to be Brian's last standing committee meeting. Thank you, Brian, for all your years of public service. Chester Key. Cody Jordan.
Present.
Bronco Catchman, I've got you. Garth Gamer. Heather Miller.
Present.
Jason Johnson.
Present.
Joshua Gaither. Matt Shaw.
Josh just
Present.
joined.
Paul Dabrowski.
Online.
Philip Hannon.
Present.
Shari Brand. Joshua Gaither.
I'm here.
I count 10. We have 4.
Great, thank you. Brian, I'm disappointed to hear that you'll be leaving us. Really admired your participation all these years, and your capacity for institutional knowledge is second to none. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Chairman's report. You can see on attachment 3A the attendance report. Please check that for any corrections that need to be made. Right now, we have no vacancies to report. And as a reminder, the Bureau will reach out to you if you miss 2 consecutive meetings in a row to just verify that you're still interested in serving. Also shown on the agenda is the 2026 meeting schedule, and just calling attention to the January meeting, which will not be on the 3rd Thursday, but rather the last Thursday of that month on January 22nd. The cadence on all the other meetings appears to be same as before. And let's move on to the Bureau report, please.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'll start for the Bureau. Nicole Litt, the Assistant Director of the Division of Public Health Preparedness. I want to start off with welcoming our new Bureau Chief, Chris Hale, who, for those in the room, is sitting beside me. So if not, you probably can't see him, but I'm sure you'll get an opportunity to meet him at some point. Really pleased to welcome him to the team. He officially started in his role on Monday this week, so throwing him right into all these meetings and everything. And we will be looking to schedule meetings with stakeholders over the next few months. So appreciate those who've already reached out and identified upcoming meetings or interested in setting something up. So I've become Chris's calendar manager. Chris has been with the agency for over a decade in various leadership roles. He's a long-standing public service member, both at the federal and the state level, serving several decades in various positions, including in public service and first responder type roles. So we're really excited to have him on board. It's helped that he knows all our ins and outs, as you all know, of the agency. So that gets him off to a good start, I think, working with us. So just warm welcome him. And I don't know if you want to say anything quickly, Chris.
I just wanted to say I'm glad to be here. Look forward to meeting and getting to know each other, each of you, and furthering our mission and helping make Arizona safe all across the board.
All right. In our Bureau, or in your packet 4B, there's also an attachment which includes our Bureau report. I'll, as I mentioned, I'll get it started, and I know Dr. Bradley and Julia will save me where on this item. Just also want to highlight and acknowledge some other new members to our team. So Savannah Sandlin, who's in the room. She is our new EMS for Children coordinator. She also has been with the agency for several years. She was in our prevention division, so brings a lot of experience to this role, and we're really excited for her to be here. We are actually recruiting for a program project specialist currently. So that is posted on our website. We have also, will be posting soon some roles within our CON section. We have lost a few members in that section recently, and so we'll be replacing or posting those fairly shortly, and make sure you're aware of those when they go up. There's some items on here around our statute and rule regulatory updates and certification. We just wanted to highlight, Dr. Bradley can certainly add, we're seeing a large increase in the number of past due certifications. So we do a 30, 60, 90. So as much notification and reminders as we can that, hey, your certification is about to expire. But we are still seeing a number of people who are applying for certification and have worked on an expired certification. Dr. Bradley noted that, just a reminder, it is the individual's responsibility to keep their information updated for us, because we are sending those reminders to whatever email we have on file. If it's not their current one, they check that to be part of the problem. So definitely just appreciate your help in sharing that across your networks to make sure that folks are aware of the notifications, to keep their information updated, and so we can ensure that people are getting certified in a timely manner. Anything you want to add, Dr. Bradley?
I think the only thing to make people aware is the old version of the email address came from a .gov email. The new one with image trend, we don't have control over that. Is a .com email address. We just like to mention that sometimes the .com email may go to someone's spam folder. But everyone does get that reminder that comes out in the 90, 60, 30 days that it is from a .com email address.
Just a few other updates. Our strategic plan, yay, was approved. I know that took quite a while to make its way through the governor's office, but is approved, and that will be the same plan that we will create our operational annual report that we will bring to all of our committees for review and approval. Also just noting our, well, I'll turn it over to Dr. Bradley on our naloxone leaves behind. Again, a reminder for everyone for our communications that we send out regularly through our Gov delivery. There's information on how you can sign up for that. And we just are trying to provide as much information as we can on a regular basis, as well as any updates throughout the bureau. And also for questions related to certification on the handout, there's our website, as well as contacts for who you can reach out to within the bureau if you have questions, as well as enforcement. And I will turn it over to Dr. Bradley.
Thank you. So you can go up and highlight the naloxone lead behind. I wanted to say a big thank you to everyone that is involved with this program. As you can see here, we have 68 agencies across the state of Arizona. If we can click on the map, we have a really nice distribution of both urban and rural agencies throughout the state that do have the naloxone leave behind program. We have about 4,700 EMTs who are trained, and about 2,500 that have scanned the kit. Just a reminder, the QR code on the kit is universal. So if the crew gives the naloxone kit out, they forgot to scan that kit. That's okay. They can scan any other kits and then just put in the 2 data variables, which is the zip code of where they gave that out, and then also their agency. So a big thank you to everyone's support of the program. We do want to highlight as well the share program. We have our statewide dashboard is now live. So we have data from 2023 and 2024. And then also agencies did receive their agency specific share reports this past week. One thing that we are trying to make sure everyone is aware of, to receive the agency share report, we can put that link in the chat if you've not received this. But that is going to be something we do ask that you put in a agency specific email address. Once you have your report, you can share that with whoever you would like. So your base hospital, your city leadership, etc. But we can't send it to a Gmail address. We don't know if someone leaves an organization, if they're still associated with that organization. So we just ask that anyone who is requesting that report specifically be from an agency email address. So we make sure that they should be getting that data. So for those of you, once you've gotten your report, if you have any questions, please reach out to the team. We can kind of answer some questions about that. I know some agencies that have questions about, is this data accurate? Are there things that are maybe not crossing over from their vendor to our system? Anne is a wonderful resource for that. She can really look at your agency's data if you have questions about that. or something does not seem accurate. So we're really excited to have those reports go out. We won't go through the whole share report today, but the statewide dashboard is live. As we demonstrated in the last couple of meetings, once you click on that dashboard, you can actually click on different variables and adjust things. So one of the pieces, if you look at share, I will just highlight, I believe it's under the summary page. Sorry, maybe final outcomes. So if you scroll down at the bottom there, you can see response time. And if you click on different response time increments at the bottom, you can then see how survival rates change. So really kind of a useful tool. This was a request that came from actually one of the agencies when we presented the staff, who mentioned, you know, hey, we really want to know not just 0 to 10 minutes, but what is the difference of 0 to 4, 5 to 8, etc. We narrowed those margins, and you can start to see differences in survival rate. So we're really excited that this is live. And again, if you have any questions about that, the team's happy to answer this for you. And I think that's it that we have on this report. And I also want to make sure we don't forget to recognize Donna, who retired recently at 27 years with the Bureau. So thank you for all of her service with us. The next update that we have is the data visualization for offload time. Thank you to Matt Shaw, who is in the room here. He had requested this. This is something that is a new dashboard. We got really helpful feedback at our last meeting from Dr. Gaither as well, which is on our maps. Kind of one of the things that we realize is there's colors, but if you don't know what those colors represent, so we are going to add a guide to that. The offload times are broken down by county, and we have both 911 and interfacility. One thing that I think is quite useful, if you look at a county, if you know that your agency's offload times are much longer than what you're seeing as that county median or average time, that is something you could then work with your catchment area hospital. When you look at larger counties, you may have something with the full volume of data where it may be an outlier for your county. And that's something that I think will help you work with your receiving facilities to kind of address some of those offload times. Right now, the data is through 2024. There's some internal IT issues that are possible working with on the IT side, but this is going to become kind of almost near real time moving forward. So right now, we only have through 2024. Once those data issues are fixed, we then will be able to have more real-time data. So if you're looking for stromic surveillance of as we enter respiratory season, we have higher volumes, what our offload times look like, how is that affecting our availability of other units to respond in the field. So open up for any questions if anyone has any other feedback or thoughts on this. But thank you for Matt Shaw for requesting this dashboard. I think that is it from us, Franco.
All right. Thank you so much for the update. A warm welcome to Bureau Chief Chris Hale. Thank you for joining us. And also a sincere thank you for all the hard work that everybody's doing to get those amazing dashboards up and running. First item, can I get a motion to discuss, amend, and approve the minutes from July 10th?
After Brian and Josh.
Thank you. And that should be attachment 5A. Any discussion or amendments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and that motion will pass. Thank you. The next item is to discuss, amend, and approve removing optional agent minimum quantities or minimum requirements as shown on the current table 1 EMCT drug box. Can I get a motion, please?
Matt Shaw,
Second.
Brian Smith.
I can give a little bit of background on this and how this request came up. This was something that as the table has expanded, someone had pointed out that some of our optional agents have a minimum drug quantity, but not all of them do. Because they are optional, do we need to carry a minimum quantity for these? And that, I think, is really the big question that we had gotten from agencies. Obviously, if it's a required medication, there's a state minimum that is what's required to be carried. But when you look at some of our optional medications, so like antibiotics, it's got no amount listed as optional, but when you go to some other medications, like calcium gluconate, Crofat is optional. We don't have a minimum amount with that, but we do for rectal diazepam, and we do for diltiazem. And so the question that had been brought to the Bureau for this committee's consideration that would then go to MDC, as we go down this list, do we want to continue to have a minimum quantity, or do we want to just list this optional? And then it would be up to the agency and their medical director to determine how much of each medication would be carried. So etomidate is a good example. We have listed as 40 milligrams. That's well beyond what the normal dose is. Typically most people cap out at 20 milligrams. And so the question is, if it's optional, do we even need to have a minimum, or can that really be left up to the agency? So I think that's kind of the global overarching consideration for everyone to think about.
Any other discussion from the panel?
Brian has his hand raised. Go ahead, Brian.
I have just one thing on epinephrine, 1 milligram, 1 ml on page 3, it looks like. And it says optional, and this is for a 30 milligram multi-dose vial. So if you remove the amount, all you have is 1 milligram, 1 ml. So that, because there's so many different variations we have on here, I guess the question, could we do epinephrine multi-dose vial and then make it optional rather than having 1 milligram, 1 ml might work?
For that one, on bottom of page 2, we do epinephrine 1 milligram per ml. You're saying on page 3, your recommendation is maybe just use multi-dose vials into the agent, the scripture, as opposed to the optional.
Yeah. Because otherwise you got 2 lines with epinephrine 1 milligram ml.
So I think question for the committee is, as you look at this list, and that's what's displayed right now is a good example. You can see the multi-dose epinephrine has an actual 30 milligram dose. Then you go to Esmolol, there's no minimum quantity. No, scroll back down. That's okay. Etomidate does a 40 milligram. Glucose oral has 30 grams, but then the other ones we have just optional with no dose next to it. So I think that the point that was brought up that was asked is, do we want to eliminate some of those optional numbers? We probably want to start at the top. But the question is, does this committee want to make that change? Excuse me, I think question number 1.
I guess I'm wondering, like, can we not have both? Like, some things that have an optional and some that don't, like, you know, for example, like the diltiazem, like it'd be hard to have diltiazem less than 25 milligrams, right? Like that's like kind of the standard packaging, but like Esmolol could come in any number of packaging options. So, you know, be more specific to whatever agency you work for if they elected to carry it. Like, is it okay to have some that are optional with the dose and some that are not, or are we just trying to clean it up?
I think the question,
Doesn't matter, I guess.
I think the question that was brought forward from an agency was, we carry etomidate. Etomidate is an optional agent. Our crews are never giving more than 20 milligrams, but this is requiring us to carry 40 milligrams, and yet it's an optional agent. So I think that was kind of a big example that came up, is why is there a minimum quantity if it's optional?
I see.
They expect the inspection.
And yes, and good point thank you, Shelley. It does affect the inspection. So, but our inspectors go out and inspecting a unit, it's listed as optional. Even though it's optional, if this says 40 milligrams, they have to have 40 milligrams. So I think from an inspection perspective, it would make a difference as well. And we've tabled this for a few meetings, but I think it is probably a reasonable thing to look at, because honestly, for some of these medications, some are more expensive than others. From an agency perspective, they really feel like if they have a CO1 and they're going to get inspected, they don't want to be out of compliance and not have the minimum. But I know not an exciting topic, but some people probably need to address it to the committee. So maybe scroll to the top and we can see, unless the group says they're not interested in tackling the topic.
Amber, I see you have a question.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I would definitely support probably removing them. From my perspective, it seems like if you're going to have an optional agent, your medical director is going to decide, you know, what that's used for, what your dosing is, and you know, how often you're likely to use it. So it seems like if we just remove them all and make it all optional, then we eliminate the problems with inspections, and we just leave it up to the agency and their medical director to decide for optional agents how much their minimum par will be.
This is Jason. I completely agree with you, Amber. I would support that.
Brian has, Henry, go ahead, Brian.
I found another one on atropine sulfate optional. That's for the multi-dose vial, so making the same move on that.
Just move multi-dose over.
Yeah.
It said, and then scope of practice.
Yeah.
Right.
And just say multi-dose vial, and then they can decide whatever that is.
Level, which, yeah.
I think for this one, we would just be for atropine.
I'm looking at albuterol.
Yeah. I know he's bringing up the atropine. So for atropine, we have the, one pre-filtrant for 1 milligram under the first line. The second line, you're saying move multi-dose vial. And
To
then
the
just
agent name?
eliminate the dose. Is this an editable version?
It's a PDF. The albuterol line.
And then albuterol, showing active point on that one. This is specific to the level. It's required agent for AMTs and above. For EMTs, it is optional. So I think we could leave it a separate line and just have optional and take off the 10 milligram. I think that would address the albuterol. We don't have a lot. Oh, go ahead, Franco.
What about naloxone? The second naloxone entry that specifies 2 doses by pre-filled atomizers or auto injectors at the bottom of page 3. Right there. So could that one work if we just pulled, if we just changed the agent title to naloxone, comma, pre-filled? Yeah, that's it. Naloxone, comma, pre-filled.
But there's other kinds of pre-filled naloxone.
The pre-filled atomizers or auto injectors.
That was because of the EMT issue. That's why that line is.
Yeah, so it would be under the EMT, that would be for that EMT section, for that one.
So I think you would still have to have pre-filled atomizers or auto injectors, but you could remove the 2 doses.
Yes.
Got it.
Just to make sure we cover them, I really think since we have not much on the action items for today, we should start from the top and make sure we're not missing any, because otherwise this is gonna be tabled a few times, maybe run from the top, and then we can have come back to make sure we capture all of these before this gets voted on, if that's okay. So the first one was captured for albuterol. For the second albuterol, we would just, this is for EMTs, this eliminates a 10 milligram. For aspirin, for the second aspirin, this is for the EMT only, we would eliminate this, the 324 milligram. For the second atropine, we would move under agent, we would say atropine sulfate dash multi-dose vial. And then under minimum quantity would just simply say optional without the 8 milligram. For calcium gluconate 2.5% topical gel, that would just be optional. For dextrose 5% in water, that would just be optional. Diazepam rectal delivery gel, optional. So speak up if anyone feels that anything should not be listed as such. Diltiazem would just be optional. taking us to 25 milligram. So now we have a few different epinephrine. So for the epinephrine auto injector, I think we can just simply say optional and take off the one adult and one pediatric. For the epinephrine 1 milligram per ml for IM use for anaphylaxis only. This is, I would say, we'll go just to optional as well. Then we have our general epinephrine 1 milligram per ml, the 2 milligram dose. And then on the top of page 3, where we have epinephrine 1 milligram per ml, we would say dash multi-dose vial. And then the minimum quantity was simply read optional only. For Tomidate, we would just simply say optional, taking out 40 milligrams. For oral glucose, we would take off 30 grams, just leave it as optional. Hydroxycobalamin, that would be just optional. If it was 5 grams, to eliminate 5 grams. So for ipratropium, we've got the required amounts that are under the EMTI, paramedic and critical care column. Under the EMT and AMT, that is optional. So under that column, I think we can eliminate the minimum and just say optional. For ketamine, it would simply be optional, eliminating 200 milligrams. We've got lactated ringers, again, 2 lines. One are the required minimums for AEMTs and above. The second line is for EMTs, it's an optional agent, so we would eliminate the 1 liter bag. Next to the optional agents is lidocaine for IO insertion. That is an optional agent, so we would eliminate the 100 milligrams. For the second naloxone, so the first for AEMTs and above, it's a minimum of 10 milligrams. For the next column, we would move naloxone pre-sold atomizers or auto injectors. And we would then, just the column would say optional. And then for normal saline, we've got this here in several forms. The minimum supply is 2 1 liter bags. Then we have optional for 250 and optional for 50. Do we need to list those out there? Or can it simply be that your minimum is you have 2 1 liter bags, you have more than that, so you can have optional smaller volume bags without them being specified on the drug table?
Yeah, take them off, take it off.
I think I see comments that popped up in the chat. So Sandy, will these changes make it confusing for hospital pharmacies? I don't think so, because this is really just telling the agency what they need to have in their drug box as a minimum quantity. We have normal saline now as an optional agent for EMT only. So we would eliminate the 1 liter bags, the second normal saline line. The next one, we have the norepinephrine infusion pump or dopamine. Those are both optional agents. So for the norepinephrine, we would eliminate 4 milligrams, and for dopamine, eliminate 400 milligrams. For ondansetron, we would eliminate the 4 milligrams because it's optional. Oxytocin would remain optional with removal of 10 units. For phenylephrine nasal spray would be optional, eliminating 1 bottle. For proparacaine, ophthalmic, and tetracaine, those are both optional agents, so we would eliminate the 1 bottle next to both. Roxurodium would be still optional, eliminating 100 milligrams. For sodium bicarb, that would just remain optional, eliminating 100 ml equivalent. Intestinal cooling, we would eliminate the 100 milligrams, just keep that optional. For thiamine, we would have optional, eliminating 100 milligrams. And then for TXA, we would keep it as optional and then eliminating the 1 gram minimum quantities. I think that would get us to a pretty consistent and kind of more cleaned up drug table, which will hopefully work for agencies.
Any other discussions on what we covered?
I guess just further cleanup, on some of the ones that a box has 2 things like the proparacaine and the tetracaine. Since they're both optional, can we just have 1 optional as opposed to 2 optionals? We've done that in some other areas where it's like droperidol and haloperidol. They're not each optional, it's just optional. Does that make sense? Just like cleaning up the box a little bit more. Since there's no longer a dose associated with it.
Requirement or required and ignore.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there's no reason to have 2 lines.
Right.
Just put
Just one.
one line.
I know. But it was just a quick side comment in the room. Do we need to consider changing the top box verbiage or the top section verbiage? I think we would just have to work offline with our rule writers, make sure that there isn't anything that would take us out of turn, because this really addresses required agents, which is unchanged what we're proposing. What we're really looking to propose is the optional agents. I think that is feedback we've got.
So you're talking about deleting the line with the brackets up there in the E?
No.
Oh.
You mean in the description?
The key also has the brackets about optional agents. You want to delete that line, right?
So just to make sure everyone heard online, under the key where there's the bracket indicate minimum supply required in the EMS provider to make the optional agent available. So that would just be struck through entirety.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Bradley.
Yeah.
We make the adjustment to the verbiage of that optional. That optional agent are at the direction of the medical blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Just maybe that's where that change comes.
And this will need to go to MDT if approved here of TMD today. So we do have a little bit of time to kind of figure out any wordsmith activity we need to happen in regards to that.
If I hand read.
Yes.
I do share CMD's concern a little bit about the hospital pharmacy because this is the list that they're going off of. So if an agency comes in with an optional agent, is there going to be any concern with what's then distributed to them if there's not a dose associated with it?
I can speak to an existing issue that we've had with this in the past. So we had an agency that had sterile water that had expired. We didn't have the sterile water dose on our drug sheet. He referred back to the ADHS drug sheet and sterile water was not on there. So it was kind of a conflict with our pharmacy getting sterile waters in stocked.
Yeah, I don't think we would, I mean, that's a great example. Thank you. I'm thinking, I don't think we would push back on sterile water, but like accommodate. I think they would want to know what the state wants the ambulatory, this is the document that they go off of for what they can distribute.
Medical director.
Medical directors.
Yeah. That's like for our service, we don't use this. Like we have a drug form that we've created that we give to pharmacy that's specific to our needs. I would imagine.
So every agency that you base with would just need to provide their drug stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Jason. We do the same thing. We make a list for our agencies. We don't use the state one. We just say this is what's in our boxes and give that to pharmacy.
Amber has a hand raised.
Oh, I was just going to say the same thing. I believe it's a statutory requirement to have a your drug box list be approved by your medical director. So we should all be looking at it anyways and approving your individual agency list.
Sandy, do you have a question or comment?
Oops, I guess I better unmute myself. I do. I can tell you throughout the central region here, Banner does use this particular form. They take their right off this form. So I guess we just have to create a different form.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good for, like, this would definitely be a change at my hospital as well, as far as you can't use the DHS list. It is now agency specific. And when this agency that we base comes in, you're gonna need to, like, so for hospitals that base multiple agencies that have different drug boxes,
Yep.
it just isn't as consolidated.
Yeah. Okay.
I think from a perspective of ordering medications, a list could would be like ketamine, you could say, you could list different dose, different amounts, and that's up to the agency to determine what they want approved by their medical director. The bigger concern that we've got consistently from agencies is that there's kind of an arbitrary optional. Not every drug has an optional, and yet if it's listed and they carry that drug, they're now required to carry more than they actually want or need.
No, I definitely see both sides. I think this is just where they go for their dosage amount.
Any other discussion or questions? Are we ready to take a motion?
We have a motion. I think we're ready for the vote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So if we have no further discussion or other changes, we'll go ahead and move to the vote. All those in favor of accepting these changes as described to table 1 regarding optional minimal quantity removal, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. The next and final item for today's agenda is to discuss, amend, and approve the draft updates again to Table 1 EMCT drug box to reflect the addition of infusion pump requirements for several drugs that are intended to be given on with an infusion pump. This is attachment 5C.
So moved.
Second.
You have first from Matt, a second from Brian.
Thank you. And Brian, I think this was your item.
Yes, it was. I'm going over this list. We made norepinephrine a few years ago required to be, even in the field, utilized only with an infusion pump. And in going over this list, I thought there were some other drugs that probably ought to meet the same criteria if we're going to go along that line. I'm not sure they're all appropriate for field use. At least one of them I recommended because there was a request from some outlying, like standalone emergency departments that wanted it approved, and that's rattlesnake antivenom. They wanted it approved for interfacility transports for the interfacility transport drug list, table 3, I think it is. And so that's where I took that from. Maybe it doesn't need to be administered that way in the field, but and then the other one I wasn't 100% sure about appropriate was for the 3% saline. But I think all the rest of them are pretty much really, if we're going to do that with norepinephrine, there's some on here that are even probably more serious adverse reactions for that. So I also, where in the key is IP agent shall be administered with an infusion pump, I did add a line that says some agents may be administered as a push form also and don't require an infusion pump. People may use phenylephrine as a push dose or just to clarify that in those situations, you wouldn't need a pump for it.
Dr. Gaither has a comment.
I was just wondering if we had any pharmacist input on these. This is certainly something that's fairly far outside of my area of expertise in terms of what needs to be on a pump and what the safety and risk profile is.
So I took the liberty of actually consulting my emergency department clinical pharmacist on this list. I just dropped it into the chat box. In summary, per his review, the Crotalid Immune Fab does require an infusion pump. He had mentioned that nitroglycerin IV typically requires an infusion pump, but there are some clinical scenarios where you could justify administering as an IV push. The 3% saline, he said, does require an infusion pump. He echoed what Brian just pointed out about phenylephrine, which can be given as a push dose presser, but typically is given through an infusion pump. The only other issue was that thrombolytics, alteplase, is an IV push first, and then an infusion second, and then tenecteplase is an IV push, and so that one might need a little tweaking because it's not universally by pump. And then vasopressin also can technically be used as a push dose presser, but we already have a different push dose presser approved, and so he was scratching his head at that one. But that was his feedback, and I dropped that into the chat box.
I do think that under infusion pump on the key, I don't know that we can add in what's highlighted there because that would be confusing. Because what does it mean? Does it mean you, like, as a medical, looking at the medical director, who am I required to use an infusion pump, or is this something I can do a push dose for? So I feel like some of these medications is very clear. Thank you, Franco, for doing the legwork on that and putting that in the chats. The Profab is definitely infusion pump. Nicardipine, definitely infusion pumps. 3% saline infusion pump. I think maybe looking at some of these and saying the ones that there is a potential to do IV push, because it discuss whether or not to include that. But the one, I don't know that that is a key. I think would still give people an option to think they don't need an infusion pump if we include that verbiage.
Then we'll need to go back and look at table 3 again to add those drugs to the list that you want on infusion pumps during interfacility transports, because there would be some in there that you would want to do that. So that would be another agenda item later on, but you would want to, if you're going to have anything that you weren't going to have as an infusion pump for the field that should be on an infusion pump during an interfacility, then those would need to be added back onto table 3 later on.
I think kind of addressing table 1 though, that this is proposed new verbiage. I don't think we can use this proposed new verbiage, because to me this creates a scenario where now you could actually look and say, even though it's an infusion pump, I can give this push, right? But I expect for any drug that you have IT listed, that people would think that that is an option if it's listed on a key that way. I think
I agree that when I read that also seemed a little bit conflicting, that particular addition.
So would the suggestion then be for phenylephrine, just to remove the IP altogether? And sometimes it could be a push, but sometimes you would also, if you were going to run a drip, you would obviously put that on a pump.
can we just suggesting that we
I don't know the difference.
start from the top at the highlighted one to we don't miss any. First one is Profab. I think is everyone in agreement? Infusion
Yes.
pump to that one. And then page 3, the next one will be at the bottom, nicardipine. We're in agreement on that. Nitroglycerin, I think this is the question again. This is only for critical care paramedics. Do we want this as an option for infusion pump only, or IV push and infusion pump?
I'd support infusion pump only.
If you go to page 4, 3% saline, that was one that should definitely be infusion pump only. Phenylephrine, this is one where you could argue there is the possibility of push dose pressure for that. However, we do have push dose epi, which I think is what's universally kind of used across most of the state.
Well, but I hear flight
Yeah.
flight companies using phenylephrine push dose, and
Yeah.
so you may have a flight paramedic on there now that's,
Fiddle is our primary for, like,
yeah.
To just take off IT for that one then.
I mean, I think so. That seems like the easiest.
With thrombolytics, I think that can stay in infusion pump because I can't see a scenario where a medic is going to be starting a thrombolytic in a pre-hospital setting on a 911 call.
I don't know of any flight services that are doing like emergent thrombolytics in flight prior to coming from a facility. And
not the same call.
yeah, not exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Same road.
I don't have any helicopters.
So my next question then would be,
Amber has a question.
Oh, I was just going to ask about the thrombolytics. If an agency decided to start something like one of the stroke ambulances or something like that, I mean, would that eliminate the ability for them to do something like that if we took thrombolytics off as a push dose? I don't think there's any operating now in Arizona, but there's always on and off talk of these mobile stroke units, and those do usually end up in potentially push dose thrombolytics being given. So that was just one thing I'd bring up. I don't know that it's an immediate issue, just something that I would throw out there.
Are the stroke ambulances staffed with a nurse?
It is a mobile stroke unit in the Phoenix metro area, but it is staffed with a nurse and it's actually licensed under the hospital license.
Okay, got
So
it.
while co-managed, it's actually under the hospital license with nursing staff. So
Got it. Okay, all right. Perfect, thanks.
it sounds like thrombolytics, infusion pumps to stay.
yeah, but my question ultimately then is why is it on the field list? Why not ultimately? I mean, there'll have to be another agenda item later on, but if nobody's doing it and nobody anticipates using them in the field, then we shouldn't have it on the list. Just
Well,
have
they-
it under next facility. What's
They
that?
do run infusions.
Yeah, and then if they use TNK, it doesn't matter. You're not gonna have them on an infusion pump, but if they use TPA, then they'll be on an infusion pump. So you just put IP on it on the other list, and it won't matter if it's TNK. Just a thought for the future. I'll bring it up again if I'm still coming.
And then the last one is vasopressin.
Not aware of anyone giving that as a push dose unless like flight is, but I'm not aware of that either. I do. Oh, they are. Yeah, okay.
So you're saying they are, sorry.
Flight, yeah, I've heard of agencies using it, classic air uses it, for example. Vasopressin, right? Yep.
There's a recommendation to eliminate infusion pump for vasopressin then?
I've been hearing them using it as pushes for years. I can't speak to, that's a different medical director, just from what they've been doing.
Any other recommendations or comments?
Good job.
All right, then let's go ahead and, hearing none, let's go ahead and move this to a vote. All those in favor of making the infusion pump changes as recommended, but we're holding off on changing any of the language up at the top key at the top of the page. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Any agenda items that are considered for the next meeting, please send those to Shelley, and her email address is on the agenda for reference.
I think Brian had his hand up in the room.
Well,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
we need to look at table 3 on those things to add to for infusion pumps for when they're on inner facilities, because they won't be covered anymore by the general idea that anything in your box you can take.
Thank you, Father.
Yep. And so coming up in 2026, the agenda is pointing out that we're going to be forming a work group for bylaw reviews. This is a once every 3-year exercise, and so that'll be coming up next year. And this is our time for call to the public.
Rick Eagle.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you all today. I do have some written information that I have available if that's appropriate to hand out at this time. If that's acceptable. So my name is Rick Beadle, and I have been a firefighter and EMCT for the city of Casa Grande for over 14 years. But I am not here today in my capacity as firefighter or EMCT. I am here because I have recently invented and patented a new type of patient lifting device that I believe will revolutionize the way we lift patients in the field. Although this device is still pre-market, I am proud to share with you that it has already won 2 innovation awards. The first from Firehouse Magazine, which if you're not familiar is the largest firefighter publication in the country. And the other is from EMS World, which is the largest EMS conference in the country. Now, before I demonstrate this device to you, I just want to touch briefly on how we currently lift patients in the field. Typically, upon entering the residence of a fall patient, we ask if they have a towel or a bed sheet available for us to use. We then roll it up, put it under their arms in a horseshoe type shape, instruct the patient to give themselves a hug, and we hoist them up. And then we hope that they have a rolling style office chair that we can wedge under them. We sit them back down on that. And from there, we move them where they need to go. I think some members of the audience will agree that's pretty standard. But needless to say, that is not the most sophisticated method of lifting human beings, nor is it the safest, either for the patient or for the first responder. With that in mind, I'm proud to present to you the riser. The riser has the same dimensions, length and width as the standard backboard. As such, it can be stored conveniently in the backboard compartments with the backboards. When it's time to use it, no need to carry it. It stays locked flat and it rolls just like airline luggage. As you can see, I'm able to roll it with just one finger. Very easy to control. Once you get to your patient, if they're able, a lot of patients, they can't move vertically, but they can move horizontally. If they're able to scoot and shimmy over onto it, great. Otherwise, you can log roll them just like you would a backboard. There's a pair of seat belts on here that go across their chest like so. You simply lift, and it automatically locks into position. I know we're a little spread out, so I'll demonstrate that again. Now you can lift from the rear like I did, from either side, or you can use these yellow pull straps and actually pull the patient up towards you using your own body weight to generate the force needed to get them up off the ground. Now, it's a little bit deceiving because this back is so tall, but it is in fact chair height. The reason why this back is so tall, and this is the most important point, is for leverage. This device is going to provide a pair of operators a 6-to-1 mechanical advantage. So for example, if you have a 300-pound patient on the floor, it now only takes 50 pounds of force per person to get this adult from flat on the ground to seated and upright. Now I'll call your attention on one side of my pamphlet. There's pictures of a lovely young lady in teal. That is my own dear sweet mother. Because in the fire service, we have a standard, don't do anything that you wouldn't want your mom reading about the paper the next day. I would not come to you with a device today unless I felt it was safe enough to use it on my own mother. Now again, once they are up, this device is equipped with rear caster wheel, so it turns on a dime. The importance of this is that oftentimes people fall in awkward places, bathrooms, back bedrooms, places where a gurney can't go, and or where we end up awkwardly lifting. So what this device will do is not only get them up, but can navigate these tight spaces that current devices on the market are unable to do. Now, if you know you're going to be transporting your patient, or even if they just need to go to their favorite chair, their bed, wherever, you can always put a lift sheet on here first. That way, When you go to move them, it's more of a lateral transfer instead of bending all the way to the ground and then heave ho and wrenching your back, which is where a lot of back injuries occur. On that note, in addition to being another useful tool to help us do our job and make it a little bit easier, I'm sure I don't need to tell anyone on this committee that lifting injuries are very common in the medical field. What you may not realize is how prevalent they are in fire and EMS, to the tune that over 50% of firefighter injuries are now strains and sprains. And in point of fact, strains and sprains are the #1 type of injury for both fire and EMS. Call your attention to this side of the flyer. I've got a number of statistics here from a number of agencies I'm sure you're familiar with. First one's from National Institute of Health. 40% of EMS injuries are caused by strains and sprains. 51% of which occur moving a patient not involving a gurney. I know most departments have switched to power gurneys. I know we have, and they are great. But if half of the most common injuries are occurring before you even get your patient to the gurney, I think that merits an inquiry as to what we can do to help mitigate those injuries. I'd also point out 1 in 4 EMS workers will suffer a career-ending back injury within the first 4 years of service, and that's from the National Association of EMT. OSHA is saying now that the average cost of a workplace strain is $32,000 and change. I bring these numbers up because when I was on the fire pension board, Mayor used to say that we are shepherds of the tax dollars. And I'm sure I need not remind anyone that we're all hourly, which means if I get hurt lifting a patient, not only do they have to pay me to be at home, pay for my medical care, but you have to pay for someone else to come in and work in my spot overtime for 24 hours at a time. So the importance of this device is not just a tool that will make our jobs easier, but will help prevent costly injuries that are estimated from $50,000 to $200,000 per department annually. I know I'm just about up on time, so I want to thank you all very much for your time and attention. And I'm available for questions now or at the meeting or whenever. All my contact information is available on this flyer here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Any other call to the public before we conclude? Hearing none, the upcoming events calendar is included in the agenda for your review. Our next meeting will be next year, March 19th, 2026 at 12 noon. And with that, I wish you happy holidays. Hopefully I see some of you before then, but otherwise we'll go ahead and adjourn at 12:57. Thank you.
Thank you.